Welcome back to the Sideboard of the Cincinnati Standard Open. I'm here with Andrew Shrout,
hey,
an Open Series champion, and today he's one of the few in the room trying to find the poor Geist of St. Traft a new home. You're not playing Delver though, you're playing White Blue Humans. So why'd you decide to come to the event with humans?
Well, I knew going into the event because it's week one. It's a completely untested format. I knew I wanted to be proactive, and I knew that I wanted to be attacking. So really, the options were humans or zombies. And between the two, I expected a lot of zombies, which I think has played out today. And I think this deck is really well positioned against zombies.
You have 4 Knight of Glory in the main deck, so
they
I'd say
help.
that you're kind of hedging there a
little bit
on your bet. What do you think? Are there any real cons to the Knight of Glory? Obviously, there's no more gut shot in the format, so is he really just like a pretty good guy to run?
Yeah, he's a fine bear. I mean, there are alternatives, but even just in a vacuum, I think he might be one of the top 3 2-drops for this deck.
Sure.
I don't know what else you would play.
Talking about 2-drops, we've got Precinct Captain, which is a pretty strong one just on pure power level from the new set. But you've also got Elite Inquisitor, pretty good against zombies in many ways, similar to Knight of Glory.
I was hedging a little harder, yeah. I mean, I didn't think 4 Knight of Glory was enough. I wanted more protection from the zombie deck 2-drops.
You wanted them to just shake their head when they signed the match slip, right?
Yes.
Like, can't believe it. Can't believe it.
Yeah, and it's not just those either. Riders of Gavany also in the matchup has protection from zombies. So a full 9 creatures in the main with protection from the zombie deck.
Elite Inquisitor is one of those cards that was touted when it came out as, just a pretty reasonable set of abilities for its size anyway. It kind of got overshadowed based on the dominance of blue and Snapcaster Mages. But I think it might be poised for a comeback in this metagame.
Yeah, I agree. It does have a ton of abilities. It's like I want to say mini Baneslayer. It's like a micro Baneslayer.
Micro Baneslayer.
It has some growing to do, but really, what puts it over the top, of course, is it's got protection from the 3 creature types. And prior to the rotation, none of those 3 creature types were ever like a real serious tier 1 have to beat it threat. I mean, zombies was good pre-rotation.
Yeah.
But now the one deck you knew coming in. Again, it's week 0, so like the format's completely undefined. You don't have like a clear metagame that you need to figure out how to beat. But the one deck you absolutely know you have to beat is zombies. So it's easy to lean on Elite Inquisitor this week anyway. And it's a fine guy on its own. A first strike Vigilance Bear is a pretty good rate. So like I see him being good going forward as well.
We've already talked a little bit about Mr. Geist of St. Traft. I don't think we need to go too long on him. You do have Spectral Flights and Feeling of Dreads to enhance his ability to go Glass Golem on the opponent.
Yep.
But Sublime Archangel is a more interesting option that, again, you've got all these Exalted going on with the Knight of Glory, and you've got some flyers thanks to the War Falcon.
Sure.
So that's nice. How is Sublime Archangel playing out generally?
It usually wins the game the turn you play it. It's basically like somewhere between like a 4/4 and a 5/5 with haste.
Sure.
On the turn you play it, and then it's also a decent flying body on top of that.
So the 4 power is basically a free roll.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like again, it was between this and zombies, and the selling point of zombies is the damage rate. Like per creature at every point on the curve, you have like 2 power for 1. On 2, you have Lotleth Troll. On 3, you have Geralt's Messenger. On 4, you have Aristocrat. Sometimes. So basically, at every point on the curve, I wanted to match that output. So on the 1-drops we have the 2 power. On the 2-drops, we're not quite catching up with Lotleth Troll, but we're positioned better. The 3-drops, Geist and Silverblade Paladin do a ton of damage, generally as much as Geralt's Messenger.
Sure.
And then I just wanted an over-the-top 4-drop, and this packs the biggest punch of any 4-drop available.
Yeah, I think we'll see Sublime Archangel catching on. She's a pretty good hitter, especially now that we don't have to deal with Vapor Snag or Dismember in the format.
Yeah, every bit of this deck. The Champion of the Parishes in particular kind of fell out of favor, I think, because of Vapor Snag and Gut Shot to some degree. Exalted creatures in general. The Silverblade Paladin, like, this entire deck used to be disrupted pretty heavily by Vapor Snag, and we don't have to worry about that anymore. So I like where it's positioned a lot more now.
All right, well, your sideboard features a host of interesting cards, so we're just going to have you run down which matchups you bring in, which cards. Okay. Let's start with the Rootborn Defenses.
The Rootborn Defenses, this was kind of a last-minute addition, but I have these Syncopates, which this was my plan against Control. Then it occurred to me that most of the Control decks in the format are going to be leaning on Divine, which verdict is it? Supreme verdict? Supreme verdict, yeah. Which, of course, you can't syncopate that. So I wanted some additional outs to Supreme Verdict. It doesn't work against Terminus, which is kind of awkward because most decks will have both. But it's also just it's useful against Bonfire. This is basically just there for sweepers, and it's also in like human mirrors, creature mirrors in general. It's a decent combat trick. You can get some pretty sick 2-for-1s with it. And then if you board it in and you find that you don't need it for that purpose, you can always free roll a free angel off of Geist of Sanctuary.
I love free angels.
Exactly. That's maybe what sold me on it. Near-Heath Paladin, I'm not sure I actually need. I play on Magic Online exclusively, and the new set is not out on Magic Online yet, so I hadn't played any games with this. I was just kind of running some thought experiments and just kind of guessing at what would be good. I thought I was well positioned against other aggro decks. 3 rounds in, I still think that, but I didn't know for sure, so I wanted to hedge a little and get some dedicated cards against like mono red if that turned out to be a prominent thing. I haven't seen any of it, but this card would be great against that. I think it's good against zombies, not that we need it. I think it's fine in the human mirror. So this is just like it seemed like the best life gain option I could find just in these colors.
Sure.
Syncopate is kind of a catch-all. I played white blue humans with Mana Leaks quite a bit last year, not towards the end of the season, but Mana Leak was a card you leaned on a lot. It was good against Titans then, but there are just like any deck that's trying to go over top of little attacking men, you need some counter magic to lean on. Syncopate is not quite the same as Mana Leak, but in this deck it's pretty close. You deploy your threats and then you pass the turn and they play a thing that would kill you, and instead you counter it and you win. In this case, you get a little bit of extra value on it because it exiles. One of the big decks that I expect to need this kind of card against would be like the mid-rangey, like the kind of the junk reanimator style decks. You can stop there, Unburial Rites. If they play Thrag Tusk and you don't want it to come back later, you can get it. As well as just being useful against things like Hardcast Terminuses and Bonfires and all that. Talia is kind of the same deal. I don't have a ton of spells. The ones that I have are pretty cheap. So it's not great on the draw, but on the play against nearly anything that isn't trying to be aggressive, Talia is the best 2-drop you can have, I think.
Okay.
You just kind of steal some wins. If they keep land light and they don't draw out of it, it's like a Stone Rain that attacks for 2. So,
sure.
Just handy. And then Bonds of Faith, I was worried about like Thrag Tusks in particular, but
okay.
Like again, I knew that zombies were going to be really good, and it looks on paper like I should just crush it, but I don't know that. I still 3 rounds in I haven't played against it, so I don't want to talk up how great this deck is against zombies with no experience. But this card's excellent against zombies, excellent against any blockers really. But it's just it's a useful hedge. It clears a blocker when you need to clear a blocker, and when you just need to get bigger, when you need to like a little more damage to like speed up your clock, it can do that as well.
There's no shame in Giant Strength.
Giant Strength is all right. I have multiple Giant Strengths, it turns out.
Yep.
Spectral Flights as well.
Well, we've already gotten the call for the next round of the tournament, so I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to it. Thanks for coming into the booth.
Absolutely.